It's Wednesday, a little bit after 7:30. Going to be doing another live today. Um, Hopefully one of these days I'm going to get this thing started right at 7:30 without any problems. But today ain't the day. So if you've been watching my lives, you may have noticed that last week I was MIA. That's because I did my first remote demo for a wood turning club in South Florida, and that just happened to fall on a Wednesday, so I wasn't able to do both, obviously. So sorry about that. And today, if you looked at Instagram, you might have seen my post where I talked about this blank right here, which is going to be our test subject slash victim today. So I'm gonna attempt to make a small box with a lid and a finial, hopefully, out of this chunk of colored pencils and resin that I cast quite a few weeks ago. And this will hopefully be the lid and the finial. So I went ahead and epoxied these two together with a little bit of black veneer in the middle for a little detail. So I'm gonna get a couple of things together here, and we're gonna get this puppy on the lathe. That was not great. So I don't know how many of you have heard about it, but some of the folks from over on the other side of the pond in England are putting together a virtual craft fair. That's going to be this Friday and Saturday, the 21st and 22nd, I believe. I will be doing a live demo on Saturday at 4 o'clock Eastern time, and there's quite a few big names in there. There's quite a few folks doing demos, and it's free for anybody that wants to tune in. So all right, let's switch cameras here. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and put let me get this light out of the way, and go ahead and put in a drive center and get a live center to go with it. All right, switch this out. All right, so I need to get a tool to mark center on this. I'll be right back. All right, so I'm gonna mark rough center here so I can get this on the lathe. I didn't bother to smooth this one out. Actually, I don't need one on this side, now that I think about it, because I'm going to use the center on this side because I want to get the maximum amount of material. I want to get the maximum size for the actual box itself. I'm less concerned about this because the bottom of this box is going to be pretty, well, the plan is for it to be fairly narrow. So I'm going to be wasting away most of this here. So basically what I want to do is, now that I have a center mark for the top portion, I'll just bring this up, and then I've talked about these flexible point centers before and the way that they're easily repositionable so that you can find center. So basically what I'm looking for here is I'm looking at the ghost area over here to kind of get an idea of just how centered they are. I just so happen to get it just about right on the first try. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of pressure on this. Okay. Get rid of some of that. That was from a pin I turned yesterday. I had my nephew over here, and he just so happens to be one of my bigger fans on social media, and he was super excited to be here. And I helped him make a pen, and because he was making a pen, I made a pen because I usually don't turn pens. Okay, so Jeff Brookman is saying that he attempted this, and he wanted to know before, and he wanted to know what my process was to prep this piece. So basically, let's get rid of some of that. Basically, what I did is I put the pencils in a mold, and you may notice that these are pretty tightly packed. So what I actually did is I used the cardboard from the package, and I put the pencils in, and I laid the mold on its side so that I could stack them nicely, and I actually cut up the cardboard from the box, and I packed those in on two sides to push all the pencils into tight alignment. And I'm hoping that that is going to kind of guarantee, well, kind of assure me that I'll have a good, that this thing will hold together. Because like I said in my Instagram post, I'm not sure this is going to work. I've never tried to do something like this before, but we'll see. But that's basically what I did to prep the blank, and then I added a veneer on the bottom just to give a little bit of definition between the box, the light wood in the box, and the walnut on the base. And this base is really tall because I really want the base of this to be fairly small to allow me to part this off somewhere in this area here so that I can keep this mass on there while I'm working on it. I hope that answered the question. So, not sure how sharp this gouge is. I may have to take a minute and touch it up real quickly. So let's see. Turn my lathe on. Okay, so normally I just wear goggles when I'm doing the lives if I can help it, but I'm not sure about this one, so I'm going to be putting on a face shield so my audio quality may suffer a bit. Alright, let's do it. So first thing is I want to get, primarily, I want to get the base round. Not so much worried about this yet because I need to get a tenon on here so that I can mount this in a chuck. So I'm going to be turning this at a pretty good clip. Probably around 1400 RPM. Alright, so we got the end of this round, so we're going to put a tenon on it and figure out what size chuck jaws are going to be necessary to hold this thing. So, let me grab a caliper real quick. See where we're at. Jeff mentioned that when he was turning his colored pencil blank that he had a lot of problems with the color smearing. Well, let's see. Smearing from sanding. So what I usually do is once I finish turning it, I'll go ahead and put a couple of coats of thin CA on it, kind of to seal off the ends of the pencils a little bit. and then I do my sanding. Now this block right here is actually made out of a Statler pencil, which is a brand name. Let me grab something for a point of reference. Okay. So this block right here is made of Crayola colored pencils, and you can see, just turning this around, you can look at the inconsistencies in the wood that's used in these pencils, right? So it's all different colors, all right? And I want to say that they must be different woods, because they really don't turn that well. And when I've turned these before, have been very problematic. These are fairly consistent. I don't know what kind of wood that is. I don't know if it's like actual wood or some kind of man-made composite, but these hold together much better than these. Hey Doug, thanks for joining us. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure this and see what size chuck I can use. Looks like I might be able to use a 50 millimeter. That'd be nice. Let's see, where did I put that thing? So, yep. Take off a little bit. We can use the 50 millimeter jaws. Let's go ahead and make a 10 in here. I don't want to take off too much. All right. See what we got here. This is pretty close to a 50 millimeter set of jaws, so I can't take off too much or it won't fit. Now, I don't know if you know this, but you can use a tool like this to create the dovetail that you normally want to have on the bottom of your work when you're using jaws, chucks with dovetail jaws. You can do that simply by rotating. You can rotate the cutter into the shoulder, and you can get a pretty crisp dovetail that way. All right. I don't know how well the camera's going to show that, but that's got a pretty good dovetail there. See, maybe that might help a little bit. All right, so we're good there. I'm gonna clean off the bottom of this just a little bit, and then we're gonna flip this thing around and get it in the chuck. Okay. All right. Let me clear the deck here. Get my tailstock out of the way. Let me get this out of there. Okay. Welcome, JSG Woodworking. Thanks for joining us. I guess I was a little bigger than I probably could have had it. Just as a point of reference, this is probably a bigger tenon really than is necessary for this. You really want these to be closer together, but for my purposes, I'm gonna go with it. But I did want to take a minute and put the right information out there. Ideally, you want that gap to be very small. Okay. So, just like I promised in my preview, this may be very interesting. And this may be a very short video because this might not hold up for what I want to do with it. But let's get cracking. Let's make some confetti. Actually, I think I will. Under the circumstances, I think I will use a little tailstock support. Here. Okay. Switch this out. Just use a little bit of tailstock support, can't hurt. Especially at this point, the little divot that I'm making there is going to get turned away anyway. All right, Doug. Thanks for stopping in. All right, here we go. So I'm figuring the best policy at this point is to take some very careful cuts. These pencils cut a lot better. For those of you that have cut pencils before, this cuts a lot nicer than the other stuff. I'm losing a little bit out here, but I kind of expected that. Yeah. Here's hoping. All right, it's looking promising. This I'm not worried about. So that's looking pretty good. Look at that, confetti. Woohoo! Okay. All right. So that'll see me pretty much round. So now I'm gonna start. Let's see. I'm definitely gonna have to round this top over. Kind of digging that so far. I'm gonna have to round this top over a little bit. So I'm gonna start there, and then once I get that kind of underway, then I'm gonna start to take a little bit off the end, and then we'll start working on the inside. Hollowing and things. So I'm not really sure what I want to do, so I'm not going to take a whole lot off of this edge. I'm going to come in from the, I'm going to cut from the outside. Let me get this out of the way here. So I'm going to cut from the outside in, going this way, for fear that if I go this way, I might lever off the pencils. All right. So in case I haven't mentioned it already, this is an experimental turn, right? So I'm kind of like winging it at this point, but I'm feeling good about it so far. So I'm going to take some real gentle cuts here. This ain't the time to be exciting. I'm also going to, I'm probably going to insert some kind of put some kind of inlay in the top, because I'm not sure how these pencils are going to hold up when I add the lid, when I friction fit the lid. So that's something else that we'll be doing a little bit later on. Alright, so let's start shaping the bottom of this a little bit. So I think I'll start about there. Looks like a good spot. Start turning this in a little bit. Give it a little bit of that walnut. Okay, I'm gonna have to turn this. I'm gonna have to work this in pretty small. I got to tell you that I'm a little concerned about the. About making this really small. I'm not sure how that's gonna hold. How's it going, Chad? Glad you could make it. So I got a couple of places in here where I'm losing little pieces. Yeah. If I can't solve it, I'm just gonna call those texture. But other than that, looking pretty good. Pretty pleased. Fairly pleased, I should say. So I probably want to get this just a little bit smaller before I start working on the top and trying to hollow it out a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit more off the bottom, and then I'm going to start to blend these two shapes, starting to get this down to closer to the final shape. Try to take some nicer, some lighter cuts here. Hoping that a little more finesse will solve a few of the little problems that I'm seeing right now. Okay. Alright, we're missing a pencil there, and we're missing a few up here, which I might be able to get rid of these as I flow this top piece over. So let's give that a shake and see what we can do. So to those of you that are more seasoned turners, oh, I lost that train of thought. Maybe it'll come to me later. All right, so we got that. Pretty happy with that. Oh, the thing I was gonna say is when you're shaping a piece, this is probably advice more for newer turners. When you're shaping a piece, you want to shape, when you're cutting, you want to watch this horizon line across the top edge versus where you're cutting to see how your cuts are affecting your final shape. Let's see. I'm hoping these lighter cuts will help me to get rid of some of those voids where the pencils have popped out. See if that makes any difference. Yep, actually that is making a little bit of difference. So, all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and hollow this out a little bit. Start boring this. See, where's my boring tool? This is my boring tool, not because it's not exciting, but because it bores a hole. Yeah, I got dad jokes. So basically I can just turn this on and then drive that in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set it out to the side here and figure out about how deep I wanna go. I'm gonna use my fingernail as a depth stop. Let me move this tailstock out of the way. Turner's elbow is never fun. That's when you scrape your elbow on the point of your live center because you didn't get it out of the way before you started cutting. So I think about there's probably about right. So go ahead and turn that on, and then we're gonna just drive that in. Okay, right up to my fingernail. Boom. That gets rid of a lot of the slower moving wood in the center, which can be a bear to deal with. All right, so now I'm going to bring my tailstock down here, and I need to start to hollow this out a little bit. And like I said, I'm going to put in some kind of inlay here to shore up this area, because I'm figuring that if I put any pressure on it, it's just going to spread those. Turn this back on. So I'm figuring if I put pressure on this, it's going to just spread those pencils out. And, you know, this whole situation is rather precarious to start with. So I'm going to go over here to this other screen and look and see if I got any questions. So these pencils cut a lot easier than the, they're not nearly as hard as the walnut. Let's see, who asked that? RV Apun 89 asked. Going from this to this, it's not terrible because this right here is my transition anyway, and I won't be working on the walnut portion until after I'm basically done with the top piece, with the top part. So I'm not super concerned about all that right now. So going from one to the other is not really a big deal. Hope that helps. The wrong thumb button. Pole Barn Productions. Not sure what you mean by that. So let me go ahead and get a different tool, and I'm going to start to cut a recess here, and then we'll put on a different chuck and get some material to put into our inlay. So, all right, I'm going to have to get this sharpened up a little bit. It's a little dull. I'm using the Robert Sorby Pro Edge. That would be 20 degrees. I had intended to get these things sharpened before I started doing the live, but such is life. All right. All right. Just that quick. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here from the end, and very, very carefully I'm going to attempt to cut basically a small mortise in the end of this. I want to cut this, trying to decide, as I'm cutting this, I'm trying to decide just how big I want that inlay to be. It needs to be big enough that I can have a little bit of it on the surface, and I can definitely have it, have enough of it glued into the finished piece to fully support the lid operation, to make sure that it doesn't blow up, for lack of a better term, blow these pencils apart. I had gone through a couple of boxes of scrap pieces looking for something appropriate to make the inlay out of, because the pencils are basically like a maple color, and I'm using walnut on the base, as well as for the lid and finial. So I'm gonna have to go and figure out what I'm gonna use. I'm probably thinking some curly maple. If you guys got a suggestion, feel free to put it in the chat. So make that just a little bit deeper. Actually, the deeper I go with this, the less hollowing I have to do later. That's a plus. Okay. All right. Okay. So we have our recess now. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. Now, I realize everybody doesn't have more than one chuck, but this is the time to have more than one chuck, because if you take this thing off of here, if you take this off the chuck now and try to put it back, it'll never line up the right way ever again, unless you're super lucky. And I've never been that lucky, so I can't speak from that. I can't speak from experience on that. So let's grab us another chuck. Oops, not that one. Alright. And then I'm going to be right back. I'm going to go see if I can find me some kind of material to inlay into this thing. So let's see. How big is that? Let's see. Any ruler will do. About 2.5 inches. Okay. Alright, I'll be right back. Alright, sorry to keep you waiting, but I found me a piece of curly ambrosia maple. I think that'll do. So let's get some, let's see. These, the flexible point centers also come in a variety that can be installed in your chuck. This is the version from Nova. Go ahead and put that in there. Sorry about that. I keep a compressor right here by the lathe. It's really helpful when you're hollowing. Just clear some of this stuff out of the way. All right. So I cut this, the length of it, and there's some nice ambrosia action happening here, but the face of this is much more interesting. So I think what I'm going to do is mount this between centers and turn it round and get a tenon on it so that I can utilize this top face for my inlay. And I'm pretty sure that was, looked at it, it's pretty, oops, let me change this back. Alright, pretty sure that's, yeah, that's more than big enough. So I'm just going to go ahead and eyeball this. See what we got. Alright, feels good to me. So go ahead and set this down in there. This thing isn't even square, actually. It's kind of a trapezoid, I guess, kind of shape. But that's okay. It's one of the great things about wood turning. You don't need square things. You don't need square and perfectly flat material. You can start with wonky stuff and end up with something great. Okay, so let's get this round. See if we can't get it in the too high. You might wonder why I'm using a bowl gouge to rough this down. It's because I'm also cutting in grain, because I'm choosing to use the face, one of the edge grains of the board to better display the figure and the curly maple. Alright, we're not exactly round yet, and that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and cut a tenon on this so I can get it in the chuck. Alright. Alright, let's do this. Okay. So I don't need very much of this. I really just need to get the end of it round and the right size to fit into that tenon that I had on the end of the workpiece. Go ahead and start working on that. Pretty sure that's bigger than I need, but it's never too early to start checking. All right. Actually, save myself a little time. Use a caliper. Actually, I'm pretty far off. Alright, still a good bit off. Alright, that is pretty close. So now I'm going to be taking some very light, very shallow cuts. So normally I take a peeling cut with this tool, but I find that when you're trying to sneak up on the fit, it's a lot easier to start out here at the outside and cut with this corner and just cut across the material. It's much easier to get to arrive at the fit you want. So the outside of this is too small and the inside is too big. Switch to a different tool. Alright, let's see what we got. Okay. That is pretty darn close. So I'm going to cut off this uneven bit on the outside and extend the tenon a little bit, and then we're going to this hole in the center doesn't mean anything because we're going to hollow that out. We're going to waste that away anyway when we hollow this out. All right. All right, that looks good. I'm going to try to use a little bit of CA glue to marry these two pieces together. Looks like it's still a little fat on the back. Ah, figured it out. So I need to widen this up a little bit. And overshot it. So obviously this piece is bigger than I needed, and this is a good opportunity to show you why I only make the 10 and I try not to make the 10 and 2 long. So now I've taken away the majority of the old material, so I have a reference point starting place, because I know that last time I made it a little too small, so I can cut down almost to that place. As a starting point. Leave that just a little bit bigger, and now that I have that, I can remove the rest of the old tenon. Okay? Let's try it again. So basically what I'm looking for is I want to have this bottom out, and I don't want to have a lot of room for it to move around in there. Let's see if we got it now, hopefully. Okay. Alright, that feels good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tail center out. Replace it with one of these, so that I can mount my chuck to the tailstock, and that's going to help me, well, that's going to hopefully help me to get, hang on, that's going to help me to center this up when I go to glue it. So I'm going to get some CA, and we're going to put these two together. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to take out a little bit of this material in the center to make sure I don't have any high spots in there. Just do a little switcheroo. Get that out of the way. So I'm going to switch to a spindle gouge. Do a little bit of hollowing real quick. So basically what I want to do, so I just want to take out the middle parts. because I don't want to have a high spot in the middle, keeping it from seating. Keeping it from seating properly on the edges, because the only part I need air compressor. So the only part that I need it to really adhere to is this area here, because all that's going to be hollowed away anyway. So we got that. Bring our tailstock back into play here. Where's my thick CA? Over there. Alright. I'm going to put a pretty good amount of CA on this, because any squeeze out will be turned away during the hollowing process. Probably need to make a new bottle of this, because I'm down to like the last few ounces. But I think there's enough in there. Yeah, there's enough in there to do what we got to do. So I'm going to be pretty generous with this. I'm getting some on the sides as well. Okay. Use it, spread it out a little bit. And I'll put a little bit of activator on the other piece. Get this back in here. Alright. And put a little bit of activator on this side. Put that in there. And then go ahead and clamp it. You may have seen me post a couple of weeks ago a picture of double chuck clamping, I think I called it. This is one of those places where that is useful, because you know, it helps for alignment as well as being able to chuck these two together. Plenty of other ways to do it, I guess, but if you got two chucks in a live center adapter, why not? So I give that a few minutes to kind of marry itself up, and then we'll continue. And I'm hoping that that's going to give me a nice little contrast. There's a little bit of ambrosia in there and some curl. Let me look at the comments and see if we got any questions while I'm waiting on that. Let's see. Hi, Dave. Hi, Steve. Hi, Dave. Oh, said that already. Okay. All right, so let's check this out. See where we're at with this. So now I'm gonna have to let open up the jaws on this chuck, because I don't want to. Well, I don't know if you could pull it apart, but I don't want to pull that apart. So let's go ahead and open that up. Put these things away. Back this off. Alright, so let's see what we got. Feeling pretty good. So I'm going to definitely put some tailstock support on this, and I'm going to put a little bit of tailstock support on this and part the rest of this block off. Alright. Alright, so let's go ahead and part this off, then we can finish off the shoulder and go ahead and hollow out the body of this thing. need to sharpen this one up a little bit too. Much better. Alright, then go ahead and cut that off. Alright, so let's take a look at what we got now. Okay, so you got a little bit of ambrosia running across there. That turned out pretty nice, and I can see a little bit of curl in there. So now what I'm going to do is flow this surface into this surface. Yeah, it looks like my fit wasn't as tight as I would like it to be. No, it was not. So this is a great opportunity for missteps into design opportunities. So it didn't fit quite the way I wanted. So I'm going to take a thin parting tool, potentially make this worse than it already is. Turn that on. I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to highlight that area where it didn't blend in quite right. Cut in a little bit. Maybe a little more than that. Okay. Since this is colorful, we're going to add a little bit of inlay, a little bit more inlay. So this right here is a little bit of turquoise inlay and some blue-green glitter. So now, since I didn't quite get the fit I wanted, I'm just going to accent. See, get this a little closer. All right. Oops. Nope, I don't like to wear shoes before anybody mentions it. If I could wear sandals everywhere, I would. Part of being a native Floridian. Oh, it looks like there's some other colors in there too. So basically what I'm doing is packing these. I'm going to pack this in as best I can, leaving a little bit on the surface to kind of overfill it. Alright, so we got that. Then we're going to take a little bit of thin CA and we're going to flood those. We're going to flood our inlay here. with CA to lock all that together. Look at that, you guys are getting a bonus thing on this one. A little bit of glitter inlay, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So this is just a very small taste of what it's like to be in the Dreadnought woodshop, because we roll with the punches. Alright, I'm not sure how long I've been doing this yet. Alright, been right at about an hour. Maybe I won't get to the, I might not get to the lid tonight, but that's okay. I'll do that next week, maybe. Let's see here. And then once I do that, then I go back, I usually go back with medium and just kind of lay a little bit over the top, which will fill in a lot of the gaps, because you're going to have a few on the top, because this is basically, you know, basically like a gravel surface. So there's going to be pits and high spots and low spots and all that. So if you go back over the top of it with a little bit of medium, thick is a little too viscous. If you go with thick, you'll end up with a lot of air pockets under it, so it won't get down in there the way you want it to. So we give that just a couple of minutes to set up, and then when we cut that back, that's just going to give us a nice little, well, hopefully that's going to give us a nice little detail right there on the edge between our color pencil vase and our curly maple top. So I gotta say, you know, I had a couple little hiccups here and there, but so far pretty happy. So we're gonna go ahead and give that a shake. It's not that fill isn't too deep, so we're probably gonna be okay. One of the things that I found helps when determining how long you need to let it sit with the medium. A lot of times what will happen is if you apply it and you follow it with activator, it'll kind of skin over on the surface. So if you take your fingernail or something with a narrow edge and press on it, if some of the CA starts to ooze out the side, then you know it's only hard on the surface. But this looks pretty good. The other way to know that you didn't wait long enough is take a light cut, and if there's CA stuck to your tool, you didn't give it long enough. So we'll be checking that here in just a sec. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some very, very light cuts across here to start leveling it out. I don't want to rip out, it's in there pretty good usually, but I don't want to rip out any chunks. So I'm going to come across very nicely, very gently. Getting these little white shavings is a very good sign. You can see that nothing's sticking to my gouge. So I'm thinking I gave it enough time. Let's go ahead and it cuts a lot like resin, actually. Oh, we got a spot right there, a low spot right there, and it looks like it wasn't quite dry right there, because you can see the video might not show it, but there's a couple of little streaks. Let's see if I can maybe put my hand behind it now. Well, anyway, there's a couple of little streaks right there where it ran out, and that's what happened to my that's what happened to the inlay right there. So otherwise it seems to have done a fairly good job. So I'll just take this off and put just a little bit more of the medium on there, and then it looks like we can move on. Alright, so let's ooh, the micro tip came off. So let's see, right in there we're missing a little bit, and these, well, still can't see it, these are the little streaks where it ran out. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit more glitter to that spot. Pack that in there. Add a little bit of thin. Seal it up. We're still pretty early in the turning process, so any CA, all this stuff that's running down the side, we can clean that up either while cutting or while sanding. So put a little bit more on top here. Spread it out thin. That's going to help speed up the curing process and allow us to keep moving. Since I'm already doing this, I'm going to go around the rest of it as well to take care of any little pinholes that might be present. I do have plans to go over. I do have plans for a live on CA, because I do a lot of finishing with CA and a lot of embellishing with CA and different materials. So that is something that that I do have on in the plans for the live show. All right, so probably there. See, well, I'm gonna probably have to get some better cameras, but right there, as I press on that, it's bubbling out. Let's see if I can. Maybe. No. All right. Well, anyway, as I press right there, it's bubbling out a little bit. So I'm gonna press out whatever I can, and then hit it with a little more activator. Okay. And go around and check again. Check the big spots. All right. Thinking that'll do it. If I wasn't doing this live, I probably would have given it a little bit longer to fully cure, probably 5 or 10 minutes, to make sure that we were in good shape. Now you can see on the, no, maybe not, but on the end of the gouge here, there's a little bit of CA and colored pencil residue stuck to the end of the gouge. I didn't see that before. And there's a little bit stuck inside the flute too. So let's go ahead and see if we can level this off. Get some of this stuff out of my way. Okay. Then we'll come back this way. Try to get rid of some of that stuff that spilled. Right now, the main thing is I'm trying to get this glitter inlay level. I'll worry about the bottom later. So that turned out all right. Little detour. Oops. So that turned out okay. So now I'm gonna go ahead and go through this and try to get a little bit of the hollowing done, and then I'm probably gonna call it for this week, and I'll set this aside. I'll set this aside probably, and we'll finish up. We'll reconvene next week. When you're using the boring tool, it's a good idea to use your gouge. Just put a little divot there in the middle. Give it somewhere to land. And come on. Now there's nothing under this inlay. So once I get through the maple, it'll just be a regular hole. There we go. my Easy Wood hollower here to go ahead and start taking out some of this material. So this is where it gets worrisome, folks. This is where things can go bad. Alright, so I'm gonna take this maple bit out maybe a little bit further, make it a little less prominent on the outside here, but it seems like the colored pencils are hollowing pretty easily, so keep going. So I'm gonna take this just a little bit more. Okay. So those colored pencils are hollowing really nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and start to take care of this shoulder to cut a seat for the lid. Cut a little recess right here. And that is where this cut right here is going to determine just how big the little maple inlay is going to be. Shooting for it to be pretty small. Okay. So I want to make sure that I don't cut past it, because I still need that for structure up here on the shoulder, because like I said, those pencils are not going to make a good surface to mate up the lid and the body of this thing together. So I did that. So now I'm going to go back in here and hollow a little bit more. Pick this up a little. I normally like to keep this down to about an hour. If you guys want me to keep working on it, let me know in the comments. Let's see. Mike Williams asked, what brand of CA do I use? I use Starbond CA. Yeah, let's see. All right. Yeah, if you guys, if you like me to call it a night, and for this, for this one, I can always pick this up at a later time. It's taking a little bit longer than I had expected. Not really. I didn't really have any expectation for this. I wasn't sure if it was going to even work. I still don't know. Because truthfully, who knows what's going to happen to this thing once I get the walls down past 1/4 of an inch thickness. So right now I'm just trying to get to the bottom of the hole that I bored in it. I'm going to turn this light on, which is going to probably blow everything out, but I just need to see where I'm at. Looks good. Alright, we can do away with that now. So I've arrived at the bottom. So I'm probably going to come back out here while I still have a good amount of mass and clean up where the CA kind of like ran down the side. And hopefully it'll take a little bit of this out too. I don't want to do the inside before I do that. I don't want to get the inside thin before I do that because then it may start to vibrate. And that wouldn't be good because so far this is actually working. And I'd hate to muck it up now. Let's see. Alright. Okay, that took care of that part. So, just got to work my way up. Get the rest of it done. Let's see. So right here I'm using something like a shear cut. A shear scrape with the bowl gouge. I really don't want to change the shape. The main thing I want is just to clear off any of that residue from the CA. Get the surface nice and smooth again. I got a little bit more here that I need to work around the rim just fine because I also needed to clean up this area with the maple because it's pretty much stained pretty well with the CA. So I get that cleaned up a bit. I don't want to take off too much because I don't want to cut into that glitter inlay any more than necessary. You can hear the CA, those droplets of CA hitting the tool. We'll work those off. See what we got. Alright, looking good. Alright. So from this point on, I'm going to be pretty careful about all my cuts because this is one of the I'm deep in one last cut territory now. And I'd rather not fall victim. So this is the time to be careful. So I'm going to blow some of this stuff out of there and then so I'm going to be using I think this is a number 3 hollower. So we're going to come in here. With these tools, you got to be pretty far back from the work because you want to be resting on the flat side. They have lines on. They have a line on the side here telling you the appropriate overhang. That's the minimum and the maximum. So, and we're gonna come in here, and I'm just gonna, carefully work my way out until I get to my desired thickness. I'm shooting for just under 1/4 of an inch. If I can get away with it. We'll see. when you're using hook tools, soft touch can be your friend, because if you're cutting and you're making nice soft cuts, you can follow along the surface on the inside, and if you have a bump, you'll feel it. You'll be going down and then you'll feel it kind of bump out, and you can work back and forth until you work that down, and then you can once you get that work down and you have a nice, you're able to draw the tool nice and smooth along the inside, then you know that that the walls are nice and smooth. So right now I've been doing this a long time, so I can feel that I'm much thicker than I want to be. So I'm going to go ahead and keep hollowing away. While I'm doing this, I want to point out again, I mentioned it before, that this is a full-on experiment. I'm not sure at all that this is going to work. So if you hear me say something that's not approved for TV, you know it went wrong. Nobody's asked it yet, but this is a regular CI5 cutter. This is not a negative rake, in case anybody was wondering. So let me go get my calipers so we can start measuring this thing. All right. These are calipers, and basically when you want to check the wall thickness, so whatever the gap is up here is also down here on this end, so you can see where you're at. See where we're at here. Yeah, we're still a little fat down there. Okay, so we're still a little thicker than I want to be, so let's keep going. See, we got a lot of material up here in this corner, so I'm gonna go ahead and work on that, get that out of the way, because I don't want to be cutting on that once I got the bottom too thin. So I'm gonna work on that right now. Alright, I think we're getting pretty close. When you're hollowing, you definitely want to have some air at your station, because not so much with this stuff, but with particularly green wood, the shavings have a tendency to pack up and stick to the sidewalls, and they make cutting very, very difficult. So you want to be cleaning that out as you go. Okay, see where we're at here. Feeling pretty good. So I think I got this shoulder about where I want it, so I can start to move down towards the bottom again. So like I said, as you work down the side, just take light cuts. Pay attention to the way the sidewalls feel, and you'll be able to feel the bumps. And work them out so you'll have nice smooth walls on the inside. And as you're getting closer and closer to your finished wall thickness, you want to be stopping and checking constantly, because the potential for a oops is really good. I'm going to go back to the number 1 and try to clean out the bottom a little bit. Approaching slowly. There we go. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay. All right. Almost there. I know this process seems a little fidgety. That's mostly because it is. But again, if you want a finished project and not a bunch of broken pieces, that's the way it goes. Let's see here. Okay, so let's look at this, see where we're at. Yeah, I think we're about a good 1/4 inch now. So I'm going to take a couple of light passes on the inside, and that's going to do it. I would love to make this thing like paper thin, but I honestly do not think that the glue up is going to hold for that. I'm going to use the number 1. And there's a little ridge in the very bottom. Try to smooth that out, and then that's it for the hollowing. All right. So we can get this off of there. All right, I'm going to try to see if I can't get one of these cameras to show the inside. It looks pretty cool in there. So there it is, all hollowed out. We have our maple inlay. Doesn't look like much now, but a little bit of CA will dress that right up. Next time I'll be cleaning this up a little bit, and then making a finial to go on top, and taking care of the base down here. I'm gonna make a little foot out of this piece of walnut. So let me switch back to this other camera. Okay, so if you're still hanging with me, thanks for sticking around. I intended to be done with that in an hour. That didn't exactly plan out. But here is our progress so far. So you'll notice that, you might notice that there's a couple of places where I lost a pencil, or a piece of a pencil, like there and there, in a much smaller degree. And then right there on the other side, me personally, that's okay with me. I like that little addition of a little bit of texture there. And you know, this is the kind of thing. Again, I wasn't thinking that I would even get this far, but I got to tell you, it looks pretty damn cool. You know, the little ninja masks on the side. That's pretty dope. And then all these awesome little dots of color and these little geometric shapes here. And then let's see if we can show the inlay a little bit. So we got this glitter inlay going around the outside there, and that little bit of maple on the inside. And like I said, the lid and the finial will be made out of walnut. So, and as will the foot. And I'm going to take this down quite a bit smaller through the walnut to make for a much smaller foot on this piece. So I'm going to check the comments, see if we got any questions, and then I'm going to let you guys get out of here. So let me go back a little bit over here. I got a second monitor set up, trying to make this a little easier. Let's see here. Let's see. That's pretty good. Okay, I don't really have any questions, so I'm not sure if I did a good job of explaining it. Good job at demonstrating it. That didn't require any questions, or you guys are shy, or I just wasn't good at it. But anyway, this is where we're at for now. I'm not going to go any further. I figure I probably have at least another 30 or 40 minutes to go before this is done, if you count finish and the lid and the finial and all that other stuff. So one of the things I will be doing for sure is I will be, if you head over to Instagram in a couple of hours, I will have some decent pictures, because I know that the lighting in here with the cameras is not always the best, and it's not really giving me an opportunity to show some of the details as well as I would like to. But at any rate, next Wednesday I'll be back to finish this up. And also, in case you missed it at the beginning, there's going to be a virtual craft fair on Friday and Saturday of this week, the 21st and 22nd of August. I'm pretty sure about that. If I'm wrong, I'll put it in the show notes. But there's gonna be a lot of folks there. Zach from Envy Woodworks will be there. Jamie Page from Over the Pond, he'll be in there, and Carl Jacobson, I believe Scott Grove, lots of people. Oh, and yours truly. So my slot is on Saturday, the 22nd at 4:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'd love to see you guys join in. It's free. It's a free event, and anyone can attend. Anyone can tune in, and there's going to be lots of cool things shared and demonstrated there. So I'm going to take one last look at the comments, see if we got any more questions. No. All right. Oh, Steve Combs so it is Saturday the 22nd. Okay, great. All right, so I looked at the comments. There's a couple of nice comments in there, you know. Thank you for that. And like I said, I will be putting some better pictures on Instagram in just a little bit. So for those of you who stuck with me, I'm sorry that I'm over time. I think let's see, what time is it anyway? It's 9:13, so pushing 2 hours on this one. So thanks for joining me. And remember, dread not and make something. Peace.